Hello YouTube, this is Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review. I'm still at home visiting my parents for this one, so I thought I'd film another one when I was here. I'm not sure when exactly I'll put this video up, so it might be a bit backdated when you're seeing it, but I guess that doesn't particularly matter. But when I'm at home, I'm just near Stirling, which is right in the middle of Edinburgh and Glasgow in Scotland. A very historic city, incidentally. You can come here and see Stirling Castle, which is older than Edinburgh Castle, incidentally, and this is where a lot of the famous Scottish unicorn tapestries originate, and you can also see William Wallace's sword in the Wallace Monument here. If you're out in Stirling as well, I'd recommend that you check out the Outback, or I'm not sure if it's called Kilted Kangaroo, they changed their name recently, but check out the Australian pub. They do an awesome kangaroo burger and also, weirdly enough, the best haggis that I've ever tasted, so it's worth trying. But anyway, when I'm at home, I have two very good craft breweries very close to me. I have the Harveston Brewery, which is in Dollar. I'll do some reviews on that at a later stage. And I also have the Williams Brothers Brewery, which comes to you from Alloa, both in Clackmannanshire, known as the Wee County in Scotland. But today I have for you their famous Fraoch Heather Ale. Now, as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll just take you through a history of the Williams Brothers Brewery. Incidentally, I already did a review on the 7 Giraffes from the Williams Brothers Brewery, so I'll put the link to that video into the description and you can check that out if you're interested. But that's one of my earlier videos, so it doesn't have as good video quality, so just be aware of that. But if you are simply just interested in the tasting of this beer, then feel free just to fast forward towards the last few minutes of the video and you'll catch that particular segment. But for those of you that are interested in the history, let's get going with this. Now, the company started with the family-owned Glenbrew home brewing shop in Glasgow, over on the west coast of Scotland, and this was their very first ale that they produced. I actually wanted to do this as my first review, but I couldn't find it at the time. But this is inspired by a 17th century Gaelic recipe for Fraoch Heather Ale, and the word Fraoch is Scottish Gaelic for heather, obviously, and it also comes from the Celtic mythological hero of the same name. Now, a woman of Gaelic descent came into their brew shop with an English translation of this ancient recipe, and she wanted to create a batch of this to share with her family, and she agreed that she would share the recipe with Bruce Williams in exchange for him helping her brew the batch for free. So the very first batch of this beer that they produced was only 5 barrels, and this was produced in Tainolt railway station over in Argyll and Bute on the west coast of Scotland, a very beautiful part of Scotland, incidentally. But the following year, the demand for this beer had increased massively, and at this particular point, Scott Williams joined his brother Bruce, and they began to develop the recipes for other historic recipes such as the Groatsit, which is a gooseberry wheat ale, the Kelpie, which is a seaweed ale, Ebelum, which is an elderberry black ale, and Alloa, which is a Scots pine ale. Alloa, incidentally, is the Gaelic word for Scotland. But these 4 recipes were produced at the Craigmill Brewery in Straven, or Strathaven, we shorten it to Straven in Scotland, between 1998 and 2004. Now, in 2004, the company relocated to their current base at the 4th Brewery in Kellybank in Alloa, and this was when they actually went on to adopt the name Williams Brothers. And at this particular site, they developed 25 new recipes, and the company is now actually regarded as one of the most prolific craft brewing companies in Scotland. And oddly enough, Alloa actually, they're the last brewery within Alloa. Now, Alloa has a very famous history of brewing. They were actually considered the old brewing capital of Scotland. In this area in Scotland called Clackmannanshire, there's a lot of whisky bonds where a lot of whisky is left just to mature and things like that. Some people actually say that the whisky in this particular part of the country that's in these bonds is worth more cash than the gold that's in Fort Knox. I'm not sure how true that is. Maybe it's a bit of an exaggeration. But anyway, let's let you have a little look at the bottle cap and things like that for this one. This has got some really nice artwork on it. This is very different from their other ones. You can see here there's a lot of sort of Pictish symbols in this one, and as you can see, there's just the front of the beer. Just take you round and let you see the other side of the Pictish symbols. For those of you interested in the bottle cap, it's the standard Williams Brothers bottle cap on there with a little bit of tartan in the background and the Celtic symbol there. Now, this type of ale, this is a 5% speciality ancient ale, as we would call it. I'm not sure of the exact correct description for this one. The terminology for this is a bit weird, but this is the Heather Ale apparently is the oldest type of ale that's still made in the world. And it's been brewed in Scotland for about 4,000 years, which goes back to the Pictish times, which explains why there's the sort of Pictish symbols on this beer. Incidentally, in school, I don't know so much about ancient history in Scotland. They taught us mainly about the British history and the and the world wars and stuff like that. They were very scared. In Scotland, incidentally, with history, they were actually very scared when I was at school to teach us about William Wallace and Robert the Bruce, because they were scared. There's a lot of people in politics in Scotland who favour the being British and stuff like that, so they were very scared that if they taught young kids about William Wallace and Robert the Bruce, who fought for Scottish independence many centuries ago, they were very scared that it would lead to a rise in Scottish nationalism. But stopping it being taught in school actually really didn't do them very much good. We're having an independence referendum next year, which should be interesting, but that's politics. That's not as interesting as beer, I have to say. But as I say, this is apparently the oldest style of ale that is still produced in the world. And apparently during this process, I read about it, during the brewing process, the hot ale is infused with heather flowers before being fermented in copper tuns. So this has got quite an interesting process behind it. But without further ado, and without me blabbering on and boring you anymore, I'll just take you through the tasting of this beer. Let's get this guy opened. Let's get it opened up. Okay, so I'm actually looking forward to trying this one out of the bottle. I tried this in Edinburgh in a pub called Bannerman's, which is actually a very good sort of metal venue. But let's get this guy out and get him tasted. It's a very, very unique Scottish craft beer, this one. You would definitely want to try this if you come to the country. And I would highly recommend that you visit here. We're very lucky to have such a beautiful country, I have to say. But I'm biased, you know, being Scottish and all. But let's get the rest of this guy out. There we are. Nice bit of head on this one. Just watch it doesn't go over. This is my dad's nice RAF tankard that he had. But anyway, as you can see, it's a very nice sort of palish golden colour. There's a lot of carbonation visible in there. I'm not sure how well you can see that there, but there's a lot of bubbles coming up on that one, and there's a nice sort of two-finger fluffy head on this. In terms of the aroma, it's a very, very herbal aroma on this one. There's a lot of... What I'm getting out of this, you have a very distinctive smell of heather. It's very floral. I'm not really sure how to describe how Scottish heather smells. It's something you just have to kind of smell for yourself, I would say. But you can really, really smell it in here. There's the honey in the background. There's a bit of a kind of... There's a bit of a peaty character to it as well, actually. It's a very, very nice aroma, but it's not too strong. It actually smells exactly the same as it does when you get it on tap. Obviously tap beers are a lot fresher and conditioned in a slightly different way from the bottles. But this has got a really, really nice smell. Very heathery, very floral, honey in the background, and you have that little bit of peat character to it as well. In truth, probably the best way to describe it in terms of that many beer geeks from across the world understand is it being very herbal. That's probably the best way, but as I say, to me it smells like Scottish heather. I'm not sure how to describe that too well though. But anyway, let's give this guy a taste. This is a really, really good beer, I have to say, and I know this already, but let's see what the difference between the bottled and the tap one is. Now the taste is very, very malty. It's a really, really beautiful beer, this one. I highly recommend this if you're coming to Scotland. Definitely try it. But the taste follows the aroma quite well, actually. It's very malty from the start, and you've got quite the floral aspect from the heather. It tastes very unique. This is one that you really need to taste for yourself. But you have that floral aspect, and then you have the sort of the caramel underlying on this one. And it's a really, really good beer, I have to say. I absolutely love this one, but you have that floral character with the underlying honey, and there's just a little bit of spice character in there as well. And just before you actually swallow it, you're getting a bit of a herbal blast in there. But this one matches the nose really well. And it's very, on the mouth, it's very, very smooth. The flavour is very well balanced on this one, but it's a very smooth mouthfeel. As I said, you can see a lot of bubbles in this one, and you feel that on the tongue as well. It's very, very... It's got a really well balanced flavour. A very, very beautiful beer, I have to say. But it's very easy drinking as well. Very smooth mouthfeel. You could easily sit and drink a couple of these in a session. But in terms of the tap one, the tap beer, I found, in my opinion, is actually a bit sweeter than the bottle conditioned one. Maybe I haven't quite chilled this. Maybe it needs to be a bit more, a bit cooled to a bit of a lower temperature for it to actually bring out the sweetness a bit more. So maybe that's worth trying. But the one that you get on tap is quite a bit sweeter than this. In terms of that on the tap, it might be To drink 1 or 2 pints of that might be enough, maybe the sweetness would get to you, but this is a really, really beautiful beer, definitely worth trying. And I mean, it's very unique in that sense. It's been brewed in Scotland for over 4,000 years. It's the oldest type of ale that's still brewed in the world today. I had no idea that it was that before I actually read the little bit on the bottle that's here. But definitely, it's definitely worth checking out. I would highly recommend both the Williams Brothers Brewery and this particular beer. Definitely check it out, and I hope this review has actually been helpful for it. I felt I've rambled a little bit more on this one, just about the history of Clackmannanshire and Stirlingshire and all this, but I'm hoping that it's been informative for you. I'll be back soon with more Williams Brothers beers, definitely. I've also got some harvesting stuff that I'll do some reviews for as well. These breweries are very close to me, so I'll probably go and visit them in the very near future, I would guess. But thanks again for watching. You've been watching Goddard Radio Moscow. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section, and please also like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. You've been watching Goddard Radio Moscow, and I shall catch you soon. Cheers.